Hello friends, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the books I completed and read in Q3 2024. So that's July, August, and September. And I am excited to share with you what I've read. I am recording this in October, and as of today that I am doing this voiceover, I'm at 73 books. And that's a lot for me. My goal is 50 every single year. I think now that I have surpassed that goal, I am going to try to get to maybe 90. I don't know if I can get to 100, but that would be nice. I don't think so. And I'm not really going to try hard too, but 90 would be good. So just as a refresher, if you haven't watched my Q1 and Q2 videos, which I will link somewhere, this is my tracking page. I originally started in my previous bullet journal. That's why I have January to April there at the bottom. I just color in the box when I finish a book, and I'm trying to avoid the glare from the light I'm using, so that's why it's kind of angled weird. So sorry. Here is the list of books that I'm keeping track of. Now I do use Goodreads, but I also like to manually log my books. Next year I will be using an actual book logging journal thing that I was gifted, and I'm very excited to use it. So that will be next year. But anyway, on to this year. Let's dive in to the books I have read in Q3. The first book I completed in July was Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I had previously read her other book, It Happened One Summer, back in June. And to continue the series, I wanted to see how it would go. So my review is, I gave this 3 stars. I'm so sad I couldn't connect with the characters in this one. I did like the friends to lovers trope. I just didn't care for the story overall. I'm glad I read it though, because I had to know how it ended. Basically self-explanatory. I just kind of made my way through this book. It's not that I hated it or anything. I just didn't connect with the characters like I did in the other story, and those characters I was really invested. I did also listen to this book on audio. Maybe that played a factor into it. I'm not really sure. It wasn't my thing. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. So I gave it 3 stars. Next up is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. Now this could be a hot take. I don't know. I had bought all of these books, the first 4 at least, because I think there's a 5th one. The first 4 when the new covers came out. And I don't like the new covers. I don't like the shoe covers. I like the previous covers. I had the books, so I was like, I'm going to read them because I love the covers. Didn't really know what they were about. Well, if you like Gossip Girl, you're going to like these books. I gave Magnolia Parks 2 stars. I was so frustrated with the story, but it does get better. I'll preface that by saying the series gets better. It really does. Gave the first one 2 stars. The hype for me is the previous book cover, is my review. The story is not what I thought it would be. I went in not knowing much about it. The only exciting part was the ending, which, is it an ending? Who knows? Definitely won't reread, but I'll continue with the series since I bought all 4 at once. Upside down, smiley face emoji. If you like Gossip Girl, you'll enjoy this. Edit. After reading the second book, I'm downgrading this to a 2. Daisy Hates gets much better. So I think I originally gave this a 3, and then continuing on with the series, I downgraded to a 2 because I just couldn't stand it. It was so infuriating. The characters were infuriating. If you like rich people, if you like fashion, like name brand fashion, if you like love triangles, I guess, or multiple complex relationships, you might like this story. This one wasn't for me, but again, it gets better. All right, enough about that one. Moving on to the next one. We have Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin. I have never read anything by this author before. This was the first one for me. I did listen to it on audio. I gave it 3 stars. It was just okay, nothing crazy or over the top, an okay decent journey to follow along with. It was just okay to pass the time. I'd recommend, but it's kind of just surface level. I did appreciate the topics of grief and troubled parents, but overall it was just okay. meh. Yeah, I don't really have anything more to add to that. It was okay. Like, I think I found the narrator portraying the main character a little strange, and how the main character and the love interest kind of get together. She acts as a tour guide for him, and he's an author. It was fine. It was nothing crazy. It was fine. Moving on to Murder at the Dressmaker's Salon by C.J. Archer. This is part of the Cleopatra Fox series that I am reading, or listening to rather, on audio, and this is the 4th book. I didn't leave a comment on this one, but I did give it 3.5 stars. A brief synopsis is:
as fashion designer to London's elite, she had an eye for detail and a flair for the dramatic, but there's nothing stylish about her cold-blooded murder. With the social season just around the corner, the women in Cleo's family are having new outfits made by the most sought-after designer in the city. Madame Poitiers is bold, self-absorbed, and not French, despite her claims. When Cleo stumbles on her dead body in the salon, she is in a unique position to gather clues and speak to witnesses. And so on and so on and so on.
So I gave it 3.5. It was fine. I really like to listen to those cozy murder mysteries to pass the time. So yeah, that one was just okay. Next up is Arsenic in Old Books, a Cat in the Stacks series number 6. So this series by Miranda James, I am reading out of order. I read them whenever I can, and my library has the audiobooks, so I'm catching up on ones I haven't read yet. This one I read physically. I found it at a used bookstore, and I gave it 4.5 stars. I think I'm actually going to keep it on my shelf. It has a lot of history aspects, and I love history, so I really enjoyed it. So 4.5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this story. My only gripe is how long it took Charlie to read the journal entries. He kept putting it off for one reason or another. Overall, though, I'd read this one again. And that's really good. A 5-star means I'm keeping it on my shelf. I'm going to reread it. And I gave this one 4.5. So I think I do want to give it another reread at some point, and then maybe I'll give it away. So we'll see. All right, moving on to the next one. We have Ripped from the Pages by Kate Carlisle, a bibliophile mystery, and this is number 9. This is another cozy murder mystery series I am reading out of order, but they're really easy to follow along with. You kind of get the gist of what is either happened in the past and things like that. So I give this 4 stars. Overall, I really enjoyed reading this book. It's very cozy, takes place in wine country. I did skip over the detailed parts about wine and bookbinding, but other than that, it was enjoyable and the characters were likable and believable. I'll definitely continue with the series. I love this series. It's so fun. It's so lighthearted. Even though it's a cozy murder mystery series, it's really fun. And it also takes place in San Francisco and mentions places in the Bay Area, and that's where I'm from, so I get a little taste of where I grew up every time I read this series. So it's really fun. I did finish that at the end of July. All right, moving on to some Emily Henry books. Again, these might be hot takes, but you can like your books and I'll like my books, and it'll be okay, I promise. So I gave Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I did listen to this on audio. 2.5 stars. I'm sorry. I know. My review says, I may or may not change the rating of this book as time goes on and I have more time to think about it. Overall, the story was just okay. I couldn't connect to the characters. I wasn't deeply involved or enveloped with the story. I did listen to this on audiobook, so there's a possibility it could be a different experience reading it physically. I did enjoy the closeness of the 2 sisters and their dilemma in this phase of life. I feel the quote-unquote crisis was a bit dramatic. I can understand it, however, because I wasn't in love with the characters from beginning to end, it just felt a bit over the top and left me slightly annoyed. I did enjoy the love interest, their relationship development, and the flirty correspondence back and forth. These 2 individuals start corresponding over email and have developed this like flirtatious relationship, and then things kind of blossom from there. I thought it was fine. I think I'll still keep the 2.5 star rating. It wasn't for me. But again, reading it physically could be a totally different experience. Following Book Lovers, I read Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I gave this 4 stars. I was invested in the beginning and ending of the story. I think the messages are great. It's relatable, and that's what I love about it. However, the middle was pretty boring and didn't capture my attention. I think the key is to not listen to Emily Henry books back to back, which is true. This also may be a different experience reading physically. I do remember the middle and why I said it was a little boring. It just felt like there was no development. There was nothing to really, like, nothing significant happens. And it was like the same thing over and over and over. And it's like, okay, come on, like, we get it. Let's go, kind of a thing. I do recall enjoying listening to this audiobook. It was fine. I think, again, listening back to back, it was just like, okay, like, come on, let's go. So yeah, that's my feedback on Happy Place. The next book I read after that, I read physically, is by Mary Jane Clark, and it's called Close to You, and this is part of the Key News book series, and this is the fourth one in that series. I gave it 3.5 stars. My rating says, I didn't start getting into this story until the middle end. That's when the action started happening, and I was hooked. I had to know how it ended. I did call who the suspect was, which doesn't happen often for me. The ending made it worth it, but it took a while to get into the story. So this series is actually really good. This is the second in the series that I've read. I think I read a part of the series like last year, maybe even the year before. So it's been a minute, and I had this book on my shelf for quite a long time, and I finished it and it was good. I would continue with the series, but it's not one of the main series that I want to continue with, if that makes sense. The book following that one is Murder at the Debutante Ball, a Cleopatra Fox book, number 5, by C.J. Archer. I gave this 2 stars. This one wasn't a favorite. The story is pretty boring, little to no action or story development. I love Cleo, the hotel, and staff, but the murder mystery in this one was lost on me. So to give you a brief synopsis about this one.
Cleopatra Fox gets entangled in a web of betrayal and blackmail that leaves the high society matchmakers scandalized. When a notorious clad is bludgeoned to death with a candlestick in the library at the most important ball of the London social season, Cleo finds herself in the prime position to solve the crime. After all, she stumbled across the body soon after the victim's demise and is a witness to the evening's events. And so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, so this one was fine. It was just okay. It wasn't a favorite in the series. After that, we have The Camden Spiritualist, Penny Green, series number 12 by Emily Organ. This is a series I've actually completed it, and this was the latest installment. I gave this one 3 stars. I wish this story was centered more around spiritualism. However, that wasn't the case. Per usual, I'm always more invested in the personal lives of the main characters. Overall, it was fine. So to kind of just give you an idea of what this one was about,
a woman shot dead on her doorstep. A killer who disappears into the fog. News reporter Penny doesn't believe in spirits, so she's unimpressed with the young medium who claims to communicate with the dead. Is it harmless entertainment or something more sinister? And so on and so on and so on.
So it was just okay. I think it focused more on her like not believing in spiritualism and like trying to find the murder and stuff like that. Like it just wasn't kind of what I expected, so I gave it 3 stars. Next up, we have The Silence of the Library by Miranda James. I gave this one 3.75 stars. I said, it took a minute for me to get into the story. Things finally came together in the end, and for me, it took a turn I wasn't expecting. Without giving much away, it has Psycho vibes, like Psycho, the movie by Alfred Hitchcock. I thought it ended well. It wasn't a favorite by any means, but I did enjoy it overall. I did read this one physically as well. Next, after that, is Murder at the Crown and Anchor, Cleopatra Fox number 6 by C.J. Archer. Again, continuing on with the series, I gave this one 3 stars. This one wasn't a favorite. I think I'd rate it almost a 3 star, so I'm rounding up. I didn't care for the murder mystery piece at all. I found it boring. It was all business talk, and I didn't care for it. I love the hotel staff and the main characters. I'm more invested in their stories, and I'm excited to see where they end up. Okay, that review brings it back because I think the uncle in this story wants Cleopatra to be more part of the hotel than she is. And it was just a lot of like businessy type things, and it was like kind of boring, to be honest. All right, I'm going to kind of rush through these because we're already 15 minutes into this video. So the next book is Requiem for a Mouse by Miranda James. Again, part of the Cat in the Stacks series. Gave this 3.5 stars. This one was actually more depressing than cozy. I listened to it on audiobook and I love the main characters as always. I felt bad for those in the murder mystery piece of it, and it wasn't action-packed like some of the other stories are. I found it boring at times. Not much happened except in the beginning and end. Overall, it was just alright. I did enjoy the audiobook format. I did give a spoiler. I won't read it here. I do have a spoiler there in my review. This one was actually really depressing. The murder mystery aspect of it like lingered. It wasn't like,
oh no, someone died and we have to find out who it is.
The death lingered and it was very sad. So wasn't a big fan of that aspect of it. We have Daisy Hates, the Magnolia Parks Universe by Jessa Hastings. I gave this 4 stars. Hands down a much better reading experience than Magnolia Parks. Lots of action, lots of interesting things to keep me engaged in the story. While I think the lack of communication between characters is frustrating, I still enjoyed this story very much. What I didn't care for was the violence and gory details. However, I understand why it's needed for the plot. Just personal preference. I physically read and listened to the audiobook, which I did. If I was working, I listened to it on audio. If I had downtime, I was reading it physically just to kind of get through it faster because it is a chunky book. Really love Daisy Hates over Magnolia Parks. Okay, next up, we have Love Lists and Fancy Ships. Love Lists and Fancy Ships #1 in a series by Sarah Grunder Ruiz. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this story from beginning to end. It does deal with grief, so it could be a bit on the heavy side. However, I thought it was a very fun summer read. I really enjoy this author. She's new for me. Love at the Local, or I don't know. It was one of my 5 stars. Something at the Local. Anyway, love that book. And this is the first one of like a series of that, I guess. Next, we have The Paper Caper, Bibliophile Mystery number 16 by Kate Carlisle. We're back to the Bibliophile mystery here. I gave this 4.5 stars. I read this physically. This was such an enjoyable read. I feel like I flew through it when I had the chance to sit down and read. The ending was a tad slow, but the rest of it was enjoyable. I'll definitely continue with the series. Really enjoying these series by Kate Carlisle. Okay, next up is The Age of Magical Overthinking, Notes on Modern Irrationality by Amanda Montell. I gave this 3 stars. I'm not even going to go into it. I didn't even leave a comment about it because it was more just like for funsies, and it was interesting. It was like each chapter was like a little essay or individual article about anxiety and like things like that. I don't really have anything to comment on it, so I will let you just look that one up on your own. Also, I should mention we are in September at this point. So next up, we have Out of Circulation, Cat in the Stacks Mystery number 4. I gave this 2 stars. This one sadly isn't a favorite. Most of the story had such an aggressive tone, so much conflict, it actually made me a bit uncomfortable. This is the 4th book in the series and I have been reading them out of order. I just didn't like this one overall. Not a fan. I read this one physically. All right. Next up, we have the 3rd Magnolia Parks book, Magnolia Parks: The Long Way Home. I gave this 4 stars. May change the rating after I give it a bit more thought. I can't stand Magnolia and BJ. By the end of the story, they did get more likable. There's more action in this one than the first one. I like how towards the end they become more relatable due to the events that take place. It was the middle end that really got me engaged in the story. Yeah, they are the most annoying couple on the face of the planet. They are literally the worst. Moving on, I listened to the audiobook for Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. 4.25 stars. This was such a good read. I listened on audiobook and it was really easy to follow along with. I'd give this one 5 stars, except 1, too spicy for me, and 2, children tropes are not really my thing. That being said, I adore Wen and Bo. They are adorable. All of the characters are likable. I love the story of the characters, their backgrounds, and description of their hardships. It made it super relatable. Highly recommend. This book is really good. The story is good. I do recommend this one. All right, we have 2 more left, and this one is a reread, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. 5 stars again, the second go round. Reread and still 5 stars. Such an easy read. I love it so much. This book is so cute. Literally so good. Following up with that, we have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, the second story in this universe. I said, so stinking cute, 5 stars. I can definitely relate to Jacob in so many ways. I'm obsessed with his family. I love this entire thing all the way through. And that is the last book I completed in September. Overall, I feel like I had a pretty good reading quarter. Lot of hits and misses, but the 5 stars that I did read really pulled through and I enjoyed them so much. I need to stop rambling. This video is too long. I will see you in my next video. Please share below any book recommendations and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.